When has come, take me down to the field of dream by the light of the moon. No, there ain't no coming home, no going back, the skipping June. I sit by the water down by the freeway. The cotton is high and the corn is high. Don't know what I'm gonna do with myself tonight. Change my name. Some things will always stay the same. There really ain't no one to blame. Can't expect nobody to live in that pain. And I know you miss me so. I said goodbye to everyone I know. And one morning was this guy named Joe. Rock and roll is music. Rock and roll is music. Rock and roll is music now. Rock and roll is music. Rock and roll is music. Rock and roll is music now. Rock and roll is music now.
Greetings to our beloved United students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends. We're so glad that you could be here with us. My name is Seth Anderson Matz. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a student here at United. I'm joined tonight by fellow students Meg Mercury, who uses they, them pronouns, and Jock Miller, who uses they, them pronouns. And we will be your chapel leaders this evening. We gather to observe this year's Trans Day of Remembrance, an annual vigil honoring the lives we've lost to transphobic violence. For many of us, Trans Day of Remembrance can feel like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, violence against trans people and overwhelmingly Black trans women and trans femmes is a staggeringly prevalent truth, to the extent that it was officially declared an epidemic in 2019. Yet, there are many ways in which this pertinent narrative has become something of a trope, and the story of trans people becomes exclusively one of inescapable despair and fatality, while the joy and vibrancy of trans life remains unseen. All this and so much more is true at the same time. The trans community is in itself a kind of spiritual community, as it is through our collective spirit that we find ourselves, reflect on our truth and meaning, and enact transformation upon the world. And as all spiritual communities do, tonight we come together to celebrate the lives of our ancestors, or as we will refer to them tonight, our transcestors. Come. Let us love, grieve, celebrate, and worship together. Jacques will lead us in our opening prayer.
Spirit of the universe, divine creator, and God of many names, we are grateful to be gathered here, together in beloved witness of one another. We are blessed with so many phenomenal and divine gifts, perseverance and courage, mysticism and alchemy, radical modes of love and care, and a clear vision of a new world unfolding. But this old world is shaking at its foundations, and too often are we made to bear the weight of this old world's pain. Please reveal in us a life of love and healing. Reveal in us a world of joy and abundance, of color, majesty, and wonder. Reveal this new world in us, just as you have revealed us to ourselves. Grant us all a place in this world where we are seen and loved for all we are, where our bodies and souls are well fed, and we sleep to dream of all we can make possible. Grant us a place that we may call home. Amen.
A poem by Travis Alabanza. You deserve more than the violence you experience. You do not deserve the violence you experience. You are not defined by the violence you experience. You are not the violence you experience. Before you step outside, remind yourself that you are deserving of love and care. Practice holding yourself tight. Now, go on, try it. Touch yourself somewhere that feels comfortable. Give yourself a squeeze. Hold it there and breathe. Whisper to yourself that you are deserving of love and care. I take a selfie before I go outside to remind myself of how I looked in that moment, to archive my existence before physical danger, to remind myself of how I looked before I change. I take a selfie before I go outside to remind myself of how I looked in that moment, to remind myself that it is not me who is the problem, more the world that cannot hold me. You are not the problem, it is more the world. You are not too much, simply that the world is too small. You embody everything they wish they could be and all the things they hoped they could become. I love you. I love you before, during, and after you step outside.
In this evening's prelude, trans singer-songwriter Joe Stevens of Coyote Grace sings, "Who am I to change my name? Some things will always stay the same. There really ain't no one to blame. Can't expect nobody to live in that pain. But I know you miss me so. I said goodbye to everyone I know. And one morning, I awoke, and I was this guy named Joe. When I woke up from my top surgery, all I wanted was a milkshake. I was so thrilled to not be burdened by the nausea that most post-op folks had warned me about, and I was ready to go all in. And my wife, Jen, and my chosen sister, Eileen, both appeared in my recovery room shortly after. And they have informed me that I was also somewhat belligerently singing "We Know the Way" from Disney's Moana throughout the short but entire remainder of my hospital stay. Of course, I have no memory of this, and I only made it halfway through that highly anticipated milkshake before the prescribed narcotics knocked me right back out again. As foggy as those first couple hours are, I remember them with profound joy. Joy to have woken up. Joy to be with my chosen family and that they were there to support me. Joy for the marvels of modern medicine and the synthetic joy of those painkillers. A joy that this part was over. And joy to be rid of a part of me that I could not bear to live with any longer. The first Trans Day of Remembrance was in November 1999. A Black trans woman named Rita Hester was brutally killed in her apartment in Boston, and her killer was never found. Outrage in the trans community sparked public vigils in Boston, as well as San Francisco's historically queer Castro district. For over 20 years since, trans communities throughout the world have hosted vigils and rallies in remembrance of trans lives lost to violence, often including a necrology, or names of those who had been killed by transphobic violence that year. In many years and in many places, Trans Day of Remembrance events have been among the only opportunities for trans communities to publicly and visibly gather. If we have sought it out, or had it offered to us. We may have learned Rita's name at one time or another. Her name, and all of these names, so carefully chosen by these people, deserve to be said and remembered. But what do we know of Rita's life? In 2020, Boston's local NPR outlet ran a story on Rita Hester's family, written by Christella Guerra. In that article, Rita's nephew, the only openly queer member of Rita's family since she passed, remembers when Rita took him to see Beauty and the Beast on ice, and that she passionately loved figure skating. He remembers when she hosted him for overnights at her apartment in Boston, and when she taught him how to eat mussels. He remembers that her music was usually playing so loud you could hear it from the street below. He remembers that she used to call him Ragamuffin. And he remembers the painful day when they learned that she was gone. The truth is that to be trans is to know loss. We grieve each other. We grieve the people and communities who turn from us. We grieve the spaces that cease to be ours. We grieve our sense of safety. And in many ways, for many of us, we grieve the parts of ourselves we've lost. I grieve my hairline and the high notes of my vocal register and the nerve endings deadened across my scarred and sewn body. And we're not supposed to say these kinds of things, but I grieve my girlhood. I would have much rather grown seamlessly into a woman, but my God had other plans. So even though trans people are still here, there are still always parts of us that are not. I often reflect on the pictures of a little girl who both is and is not me, still hanging on my mother's walls. Rita Hester's family proudly displays pictures of her in a dress with a full face of makeup, but still refer to her with he, him pronouns. They have lost her in her wholeness, but they hold tight to a familiar part of her that was lost even longer ago. Some of our losses are for the better and make space for new shapes to take form. Some of our losses are senseless and make holes in our communities and our hearts. And all of these losses are a part of our truth and our history as trans people. And in all that we grieve, our history is written. On this Trans Day of Remembrance, may we remember all of the transcestors who came before us. May we remember those lost at the hands of transphobic, queerphobic, racist, and religious violence, and those whose deaths have come by their own hands at the turning inward of those violences. May we also remember those lost to cancer, ALS, Alzheimer's, and other terminal diseases. May we remember those lost to addiction. May we remember those lost to AIDS. May we remember those lost to COVID. May we remember those lost to the hunger and the cold. May we remember how transphobic, queerphobic, racist, and religious violences rear their ugly heads in these places too. May we also remember those lost by accident, who were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. And may we also remember those lost to old age, as few and far between as they may be. And last but not least, may we remember those who could never be known, whose truth lived and died with them in the shadows. Let us remember them not as proof of the misery and inherent danger of trans life, and certainly not reduced to mere statistics. But let us remember them because they deserve to be remembered, because their lives deserve to be celebrated, because they are our history, because we are their legacy, because they were here, and now here we are. And if we can bear to, may we remember the parts of ourselves that we've lost and pray that the joy that breaks through will help us bear what we've left behind. May the memories of our ancestors be a blessing to us all. And may we know the joy of waking up tomorrow. Amen.
As we gather here this evening, honoring the lives of trans people lost in 2022 to violence and suicide, a disproportionate number of whom were people of color, we honor the witness of these trans siblings of the past and are called to justice by the injustice they faced. We light a candle for their memory. Yeah. We will light a candle, but we're going to move on. As we gather here remembering those who have been taken from us, we honor also the witness of the trans voices of the present, the prophecy, poetry, and prayer that trans people bring into our community every day. We will light a candle for their presence. And as we gather here in transcendent community, honoring our transcestors, we honor also those trans voices yet to emerge, the gifts they will bring to the world just by virtue of their being, the bright promise of their full personhood. We will light a candle for the hope they give us. Tonight, we remember Amare Mayara Lej, Duval Princess, Matthew Angelo Spampinato, Naomi Skimmer, Cypress Ramos, Paloma Vasquez, Brent Wood, Catherine Newhouse, Tatiana Titi LaBelle, Kesha Webster, Mia Love Parker, Ariana Mitchell, Fern Feather, Ray Muscat, Sasha Mason, Nidra Sequence Morris, Maddie Hoffman, Chanalika Sid Yela Dior Hemingway, Brazil Johnson, Chaminade Giselle Marie McClam, Kitty Monroe, Cherry Bush, Jasper Aaron Lynch, Jimmy J. Lee, Martasia Richmond, Keisha Chanel Geeter, Camila Didi Candy Red Maria Swan, Hayden Neva Davis, Maricela Castro, ACD Morrison, Didi Ricks, Regina Maya Allen, Samaj Sincere Billingsley, Destiny Lachey, Milo Winslow, Kai Khan, Kenna Lee Gillick, Asher Garcia, Ruby Taverner, Maddie Dickens, Rexy Q, Serena Brenneman, and Tiffany Banks. A poem by Travis Alabanza. I want you to know before you step outside that you are a warrior. You are a warrior who is allowed to be soft, a warrior that is allowed to be scared, a warrior that is allowed to ask for help, but still a warrior. I need you to know that when I am writing this, I have changed my outfit 17 times. I have removed my makeup for fear of insult. I have changed the way I walk down the street, but that I am still a warrior. I need you to know that when I am writing this, I have told myself that it is okay to wish for something easier. I have told myself that it is okay to sometimes want to give up. I have told myself that it is okay to feel alone, but that I am still a warrior. I want you to know before you step outside that there are others stepping too, that people have stepped before us, with us, and will step after us, that the pavements can feel so lonely, but I know that I have stepped there too, that we have existed before and exist in the present and will exist in the future. We come from a line of warriors. We did not choose to fight, but we know how to survive. Before you step outside, we love you. Before you step outside, I love you. Before you step outside, breathe. I love you. If I may reverently allude to the words of Jesus, in many ways, all services of remembrance are a benediction to those who mourn. They are meant, among other things, for our comfort. If I may reverently borrow language from the mourner's Kaddish, may there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us and for all bodies, and say, Amen. If I may reverently borrow language from Islamic tradition, verily all bodies belong to Allah, and truly to him shall they return. And if I may bestow a final trans blessing, may you transgress systems and cultures of injustice. May you translate your dearly held ideals into courageous action. And may you be transformed by loss. May you be transformed by love. Go in peace.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for being here and being present with us today in this very, very important chapel service. Next week, we won't have chapel as it's Thanksgiving. And the week after, we have all kinds of things going on. December 1st, we're put together, there's a little contingent that is putting together something called Deck the Halls Party, where it'll be during the day on December 1st, where you all are invited here as well as online to come and give some encouragement and or decorate the seminary, as well as maybe some cookies and some goodies. Stay tuned about that. And then the evening on December 1st for chapel, Jim Metulsky will be leading us in World AIDS Day. So please come, please invite those that are coming, that should come. And then last but definitely not least, on December 8th, we will have Bridget leading us with Abundance Chapel. So please, we got a lot going on here. Blessings to you and to yours. Amen.